Hi, I'm Ali, one of the physios from treatmyachilles.com, and today we're going to be talking about flare-ups and why flare-ups may not necessarily be a bad thing. Flare-ups are so common when people have an Achilles tendinopathy. They are a change in the symptoms that we are perceiving. So those symptoms can be pain, they can be stiffness, particularly first thing in the morning when you put your feet to the ground, or after you've had a rest from doing activity and then get back up again, or general soreness, especially if you were to prod around the Achilles tendon. Now, a flare-up is a change in those symptoms for the worse, but that is it. There is no other correlation to a change in the pathology, i.e. what is going on inside your tendon. A flare-up and change of symptoms doesn't relate to harm, so it doesn't relate to deterioration or that problem getting worse. And most of the time, unless there is an obvious reason behind it, there isn't a need to change the diagnosis. Nothing else has happened within that tendon. So we know that a flare-up is a change in symptoms. It is not necessarily a change in what is going on. And a flare-up in symptoms can be really demotivating, particularly if it's stopping you from doing the rehab exercises to get better, but more importantly, things that you like to do in your day-to-day life or your sports, particularly if you can't then go out and do the things that you love and enjoy. So what we want to do is examine what are the main causes for flare-ups within this discussion, and then we'll have a look at some ideas about how that might give us some information for the future so we can then learn from this flare-up and therefore stop this from reoccurring or manage them better if they were ever to happen again. So some of the common reasons why flare-ups might occur, one of them can be that there has been a change in our load or change in our activity. This is the most common, and it's something that if you were to start experiencing an increase in symptoms, it might be worth sitting down and looking back over the last few weeks or months to find out whether there's been a change in your activity or load. Some of this may have been in your control and some of it may not be. So examples could be going on holiday or visiting people where your lifestyle has changed and you're not doing your normal day-to-day things, and then coming back and going back to your normal lifestyle. So that could have been doing less and coming back and doing more, or doing more while you're away and then coming back and having to deal with having done more activity than you would normally do. It also could be something to do with illnesses or time where you've had to have a layoff from doing your activity and you start back where you were prior to that illness. So you've had not something where you've been working quite hard, not very much, and then working quite hard again. Or you may have changed your training program. Your training program might mean that you've changed the intensity and how you're working, changed the terrain that you're working on. You might have increased the frequency, so how often that you're doing sports. You might have thrown in a totally new, different activity that you thought you might like to try. Another example, and speaking from personal examples here, I went camping and wore a pair of flip-flops for 3 days solid, I think maybe 4 days solid, where I did 18,000 steps each time, and then wondered why I felt different in my calf and my Achilles at the end of that than I did before. So it's something to have a look at, it's something to consider what you've been doing, and is there something different or odd that has mean that there is a change in your load or your activity. This then gives us some ideas about what we might be able to do in the future. So if there has been changes in your intensity or your frequency or how much recovery you've been having, they are things that we can then plan for when we look at your training regime, or if you've got a particular event to work towards or a holiday coming up. The second reason might be that you've just stopped your rehab exercises. Your Achilles was feeling a lot better, you've got back into doing the things you want to do, and you've gone off a boil with a bit of the exercises. Totally normal and totally normal human behaviour. Things feel better, we don't necessarily remember to do the exercises anymore, or we get out of the habit of doing them. But also, we might be feeling like, well, gosh, these exercises again. Oh, I do these every day and I'm looking into the future and I'm seeing myself doing them every day still. It's not the most motivating thing. So trying to find a way where these exercises become part of your daily routine, so you've done them without really thinking about them, or your weekly routine, depending on how often you're doing them. So they become just as ingrained into your lifestyle as cleaning your teeth is. So a good way of trying to get around this, oh gosh, I've got to do these exercises again feeling, is trying to attach them onto a habit that you already have. So could you do them, for example, while the kettle's boiling and you're making a cup of tea, especially if you're from England, or if you are from somewhere else or you don't like tea and you do something different? Can you attach it onto when you are standing by the sink and brushing your teeth and cleaning and getting your hair sorted? Is there times where you go to the gym anyway and it will only be 5 minutes to add your exercises in the gym at the end of your program? So one way is attaching it to a habit that you already do, and if you attach it to that habit, you're more likely to remember to do it, and it's more likely to be habit forming for you to do them in the days to come. Another reason why a flare-up might have happened is that the exercises haven't been progressed. So if you're sitting with the same level of exercises and strength, which are one of the most fundamental important things in the treatment of an Achilles tendon, and these exercises have just bumbled along at the same sort of level, they've not been made more difficult when you've been able to do them, and then you're still trying to do your sporting activity on the top or increase your walking activity, what you then might find is that you need to consider building up those exercises to go alongside the activity that you're doing. If we went to the gym and started lifting 2 kilo bicep weights, so we're trying to get big biceps, we're not going to get that with 2 kilos. And if I tried in a year's time to suddenly start lifting 5 kilos, I'm still not going to be able to do it. I've trained at 2 kilos and no heavier. So it's about progressively loading and making the exercise more difficult and knowing when to do that, and discussing that with a professional is a good idea. So things to take away from this: don't despair if you're in a flare-up. Flare-ups happen and flare-ups settle. They settle by reducing some of the more aggravating factors that you're doing in your exercise routine, and to have a look at one of our other videos about how pain can give us clues about how to structure our rehab would be a good starting point. It also means that we can dial down the exercise program that you may have been prescribed, and there are different levels. Like we need to progress, there are also levels below, and we can start at a different level that can help calm this pain down and build up the robustness of your tendon so you're able to go back and do activity again. Then we need to look at the training, and was there a pattern in the last few weeks to months? And if there was a pattern, can we change that? Can we look at your rest and recovery? Can we look at how frequently you're doing your exercises? Can we have a look at what type of exercise you're doing and how intense you're working, and come up with a plan? So please do not despair. And if you need any more questions, please always feel free to book a quick call with us or email. And you're very welcome to also book an appointment. Take care. Goodbye.